Hello and welcome to Minerals, Rocks, and Fossil Talks. I'm your paleo teacher, Jen, and it's time for Monday Musings. Okay, so we have been talking all month about how fossils form, but how the heck can we tell if we have a fossil and not just a rock? Well, it is not always easy, my friends. Let me tell ya, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I still get tripped up sometimes, especially if it isn't like a vertebrate fossil. Those damn inverts take on so many weird shapes, and don't even get me started on plants. My co-authors and I got waylaid by some freaking cycads. I mean, look at this. The first time we saw this, we thought it was like calcite or maybe petrified wood, and then we started seeing them in weird shapes, and nobody could explain it to us, and then I finally saw a complete one, and one that was opened up at the BYU Museum, and I was like, ugh, son of a... But anyway, that being said, there are ways to tell. And for fossil bone, I like to use the 4 S's. So, let's check it out. So the first one is the shape. Living organisms have pretty distinct shapes, and so do rocks. And they don't have the same distinct shapes. So first off, here is a modern deer vertebrae that somebody gifted me back in college. Very distinct shapes, right? Rocks don't come in these shapes. Rocks are clunky and blocky. Okay? So there are a lot of common pseudofossils. And I've got a couple of them here that I use for like teaching purposes. Some common ones are ironstone concretions like this one, especially because of how round they get. People often mistake these for eggs in various forms. These are not eggs, they are concretions. Eggs are very fragile. You're not going to find them in big chunks like this. You get weird blobs like that. But yeah, concretions are a big pseudofossil. Sometimes your sandstones just weather funny. And you get funky shapes. It's just rock. Sometimes, and we'll talk about this a little bit later when we talk about structures, but sometimes people see these, if I can get it to zoom. There we go. So these are slicken lines, so this is a fault. And you can see that the rock got scraped. Bone structure will look like this on the outside. So you got to be careful there too. Sometimes people just pick up river smoothed stones and they're like, oh, that's a tooth. No, this is mudstone that just happened to be weathered into a funny shape. And that kind of thing. You also have to make sure you know exactly where you are, because internal bone might look a little bit like this basalt, but this is a lava rock. And you're not going to find lava rocks in the same place you're going to find bones. Makes sense. Another super common pseudofossil are these. This is not a plant fossil. These are manganese dendrites. I have some somewhere, but they have been misplaced in my move. So one day I will find them again and I will show you mine. The manganese dendrites I have are actually on basalt, which is kind of cool. Found it in Oregon while I was visiting my parents. But you can find them on all kinds of different rocks. You just need to have enough manganese to create this pattern. But a lot of people get excited and say, oh, I found a plant. It's not. It's just manganese being manganese. You can also get these cone structures, which are usually made of minerals like calcite or gypsum. Um, they're just kind of weird, but they do resemble horn corals, so people can get a little confused by what they are. And then sometimes people get confused and think this is some sort of fossil sponge or something, but this is really just honeycomb weathering in sandstone, which is caused by wind abrasion. But it's pretty cool as far as sedimentary structures go. Now, shape is usually the first thing to catch our eyes as we are out prospecting. And once that shape has caught our eyes, the next thing we need to do is look for biological structures. Bone will have internal cellular structure, as will shells and other once living organisms. I will use bone as an example as it's what I know best. So bone is made of several layers, and the two most recognizable are the spongy cancellous bone on the inside and the smooth outer bone. Okay, I'm gonna flip you. So this is smooth outer bone here. And you can see that it is covered in these thin lines, which are called striations. And they do look a lot like those slicken lines. But you can see that there is a shape to this. This goes around, right? Which our slicken lines are not going to do. And this is how bones are formed. Bones are created in thin strips. But be careful because, like I said, some minerals will have striations as well due to like twinning or faulting. Here's that spongy bone. This one's been permineralized, so it's all infilled with crystals. But you can see that it's got that sort of pocketed texture. Another important characteristic to look for is the color or shade. Fossils are usually a different color from the rock they're embedded in. Not always, but pretty typical. Like this one, for example, would have come from a gray rock. And this is very clearly not gray. I have found green bones in green rock. That is more of an exception than a rule. Pseudofossils tend to be the same color and the exact same material as the rock they are found in. This isn't foolproof, but it's pretty accurate. The Jurassic fossils that I work with in northwestern Colorado are black, but the rock they are in is this grayish green. The Cretaceous fossils I work with in Montana were dark brown in a yellowish rock. And like I said, the mammal fossils that we found in the Eocene rocks of northwestern Colorado were green. The rocks, the fossils, everything, green. Okay. And I know everyone's looking forward to the last test. Lastly is the stick test. This is specifically for fossil bone, and it is very important that when doing this, you do not stick your tongue on things, okay? Don't just go out willy-nilly and start licking things because some rocks are toxic, okay? You don't want to go out there and then accidentally lick galena, which is a lead ore. That wouldn't be good. And it's not just rocks. We've had kids accidentally stick prairie dog poop to their tongue because they thought they could just go out and lick things. So please, I beg of you, use your hand, okay? Lick your thumb or your finger and then stick the potential fossil to that. Much safer. Fossil bone sticks due to the holes created by the structure. So, if I lick my thumb and hold it to this red fossil, when I let go, it's going to stick to my thumb. Now, obviously, it's going to stay stuck to my thumb because it's not heavier than I am. If I tried to lick and stick this, my thumb will stick to it, but I can't hold on to it because it's heavier than my hand. Okay? You will feel a tug. Lastly, it is important that you have all 4 of these S's and 3 for other types of fossils. Okay? So you need the shape, the structure, the shade, and the stick. As I mentioned above, rocks and minerals can take on 1 or 2 of these traits too, so it's important to look for as many as possible. Okay? Next Monday, we will talk about collecting fossils, specifically in the U.S. There are a few rules and regulations, and I want you guys to wear so you don't get in trouble. Thanks for coming to this lesson, and make sure you tune in tomorrow for some fun trivia. Fossilize you later.